Karen from Countyfairgrounds USA, countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
Do I have the infamous Corrie Swallow hypnotist on the phone with me?
Hello, how are you?
Okay, so you're a comedic hypnotist. Tell me, Corrie, how long have you been doing this?
I started getting into comedy stage hypnosis a long time ago, probably about, just about 30 years ago now. But it became full-time for me probably about 10 years ago.
You know, I like to ask you guys when I interview you, have you ever done anything else for a living?
Actually, I wish I could say no, but I did. I worked for the federal government for a while.
Oh, that's a big change.
Yes, yeah, it was a huge change because I'd go from I worked in the corrections department, so I was a correctional officer, and so I went from working in prison to making people laugh. It was such a nice change.
So how did you manage to do that? I'm curious.
Just I come from a sound background as well, and I owned a couple of different DJ companies, and then we do conferences and audiovisual and stuff, and so I did sound for basically every hypnotist that came through Western Canada. And then I came across one gentleman that I really liked, and I called him and asked him if he'd mentor me, and his response was no. And then I saw him again about 6 months later and asked him again, he said no. But fast forward 3 years later, and about 8 or 10 phone calls, finally he said yes. And so I mentored from J.R. Matthew was his name, and from there it just really took off. So, you know, I've always had a curiosity about how one learns to become a hypnotist. How hard was that? Did you enjoy it? Well, it looked. He made it look so easy, just like the majority of the stage hypnotists. They make it look so easy, and then when you go and start trying to learn it, it's a fail. So many failures for sure. And so much practicing, so many hours going into practice, just like everybody else, I guess. It's lots of trial and error and lots of practicing, that's for sure. Okay, so now I have to ask you, where was your first performance? Do you remember it? Ooh, my first performance was where was my first performance? Well, I did some performances with JR, my mentor. But my very first performance on my own was for a restaurant. It was actually a restaurant called Bonanza in Saskatoon. And, so it was their staff party. And their staff party was quite entertaining. We started our show, and then we had to take a little bit of a break. And when we took a little bit of a break, I had to go and give JR a call and just tell him what's been happening, and he gave me some pointers, and then we went back in there, and then the second part of the show was really good. We got people into hypnosis and had lots of laughs, and that was kind of I don't know if you want to call it the turning point of the hypnosis for myself, that's for sure. So you've always been a comedian then? No, I've always tried to be, that's for sure, yeah. But no, that's the good part about hypnosis is I'm not a funny guy. But after I make people fall asleep, I get them to do funny stuff, and that's where the laughs come in, yes. Okay, so tell me about what you would say some of your best experiences have been. Best experiences, well, just like seeing people laughing and seeing people having fun. And one of the things I really, really enjoy is at the end of all of my shows, I always leave everybody with a gift. And that gift is the ability to be able to call on that emotion, that positive emotion. At the end of every show, people always put their hand to their heart and they'll think of their favorite color. And any day from that moment on that they think of their favorite color, put their hand to their heart, they'll get a sudden boost of positive, happy energy. And so just leaving everybody that's on my stage at the end of the night with that power, and then seeing them 4, 5, 6 years later, and them coming up to me and being like, putting their hand to their heart and then saying, you know, it still works for me. Thank you so much. That is one of the best gifts that I've received as a hypnotist for sure, is just hearing other people's positive experiences like that.
there must have been some bad experiences you've had too, right?
Well, bad experiences, I don't know if you'd really say bad experiences, because I'm always very safe and always very scripted, so to say, as in, like, I want to make sure that I know where everything's going before I go there. But there's been some things that have taken some funny turns. I'll say that. That's for sure.
Okay. So where have you performed that you've really enjoyed the most?
Some of my favorite places, I'd have to say, would be like definitely in New York, like the Columbia Fair in New York. That's one that I've been going to for 4 or 5 years now. And that one's always a blast. You got a little bit of a following there, and people see you as you're walking on the fairgrounds. They're like, "Hey, hypnotist, how's it going? Hypnotize me!" and getting all sorts of questions. Are getting all sorts of, I don't know if you want to say questions, but getting all sorts of notoriety, I guess, that way, and just laughing with them like that, and just talking about the show that happened the previous night or what's going to be happening tonight. Hey, can you turn somebody into, I don't know, Taylor Swift tonight, for instance? Well, yeah, so we'll turn someone into Taylor Swift. Or else some other things that really were fun at that venue is in the beer gardens. I do some mentalism as well, and just being in the beer gardens and doing the mentalism and getting to do the mentalism table to table and just talking with people and getting them to laugh and inviting them to the show later and seeing them come into the show later, and just, yeah, it's a really great experience for sure.
Okay, so you're primarily a stage performer then?
Yes, that's correct. When I first started doing hypnosis, I'd say I started out probably about 20% stage and 80% therapy. And then as time went on, the stage just got busier and busier and was more and more fun, and I found my groove a little bit more. And then as time went on even further, that's when I developed into taking some of the therapy part and putting it into my stage show. And so that's something where I always, like I say, I leave all my people that are on stage, I always leave them with that gift of positivity. And it's something just like, you know, when you wake up in the morning and sometimes you're just feeling a little bit down or just a little bit more tired than you like to feel, all you need to do is take that deep breath, think of your favorite color, put your hand to your heart, and they'll have that sudden boost of positive, happy energy. And just that little bit of positive energy in the morning is sometimes just enough to make your day be fantastic.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Do you have any kids?
I do. I've got a 7-year-old son named Luca and a 10-year-old daughter named Dacia. And yes, I do use hypnosis with them at times, for sure.
That's cheating, Corrie, right?
I knew where you were going with that one, so yes, I had to beat you to it. But yeah, it's so funny. Like Dacia, for instance, when she was a little bit younger, I would do some exercises with her, and sometimes those exercises, her eyelids would become like stuck shut, and she's like, "Daddy, I can't open up my eyes." And then a little while later, her eyes would be open, and she's like, "Daddy, that's so cool." Or else when it's time for Luca to go to bed, sometimes he just doesn't want to go to bed. "Daddy, I just can't sleep." So I'll sit with him for a couple of minutes, and after a couple of minutes, he'll be falling asleep. And it's just that ability to be able to talk with somebody and help them to relax. It's so amazing. I've been doing it for a long time now, and still every time I hypnotize somebody, it's still I just get that, I don't know if you want to call it that rush, or that happiness of being able to help somebody sleep, I guess, because that's something we all lead such busy lives, and the first thing that we always short ourselves on is sleep. And that's where on the therapy side where I get to help people, and one of the ways I get to help them is teaching them how to sleep a little bit deeper and a little bit longer. And in doing that, that's another thing I really like that part about my job as well.
So I take it then your kids know what you do?
Yes, that they do. And actually, one of the very first videos that I have of my daughter, that she came to one of my shows, she would have been probably about, I don't know, maybe a year old. And I was actually holding her in my arms, and I gave the people the suggestion that once my daughter Dacia touches you on the head, you'll fall asleep. And so Dacia went around, I carried her, and she tapped people on the head, and they just fell asleep. So my daughter was actually putting people to sleep at the age of 1.
That's amazing. So what do they think of it?
they like it. Dacia is still, she's in awe. She's like, Daddy, can I come on stage? Can I put people to sleep? And my son Luca, he just, actually my son Luca opened for me just after COVID. It was one of my first shows in Saskatoon. And my son Luca, he was 7 at the time. Actually, he was 6 at the time. And we had about 150 people that were at this show. And he wanted to go on the microphone. So I gave him the microphone to introduce me. And all of a sudden he started telling a couple of jokes. And the audience were just so great about it. He just did a knock-knock joke. And everybody who's there pretty much at the same time. And just the audience was just such a great audience that night, and that they were able to participate with Luca and just totally made Luca's evening. Like that was phenomenal.
Okay, so how you do county fairs?
Yes, I do county fairs. This last summer, COVID restrictions in Canada basically had us closed down all summer, but in the U.S. everything was going really well. And so I went down to Maryland to meet up with my friend Brad, who does lots and lots of fair work, and he had extra fairs for me. So I learned some magic from him, and so we did a couple of kids' magic shows, but we did lots of hypnosis shows from Maryland to over to there was, which other fairs was I at? Virginia.
There's fairs everywhere. Yes.
Yes, I'm just trying to think of the names of it. Loudoun County Fair, that was one that I've gone to a couple of years now. And Loudoun County Fair, that's always a really fun one. The Tennessee State Fair in Lebanon, that was a really great one. That one was, I think that's probably the biggest fair that I've performed at was the Tennessee State Fair. They have huge numbers of people that come through the doors there. I still can't believe how many people come to that fair. It's huge. There was also in New Jersey. Yeah, so basically the East Coast is kind of where the fairs have been this last summer that I've been doing. And this last probably November, I was in Montana, Billings, Montana, and there was a trade show there, and I booked some fairs out west. So I'll be working a little bit more out west this summer as opposed to out east, which is closer to my home.
Okay. So have you you just worked in Canada and the United States, any place else?
No, I haven't. When I say that, I went on a cruise, not performing on the cruise, but my wife and I went on the cruise. We cruised the Mediterranean for 28 days. And so I hypnotized people in Africa because we had to stop in Egypt. I hypnotized people in Asia because we had to stop in Istanbul. And then I hypnotized people in Europe as well. So that was pretty interesting. I hypnotized people in 4 different continents in 1 month. Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
Okay, so I take it you really like what you do then.
Yes, I really, really love my job. I don't even know if I have a hard time calling it a job because it's so much fun, and it's just hilarious to see how far I've progressed with this, I guess, so to say. Because when I first started hypnotizing people, I'd be like at your local McDonald's, so to say, and I'd be waiting in line for my burger or whatever, and there'd be a group of people and be like, hey, how's it going? I'd be talking with them for a little while and telling everybody that I was a hypnotist, and I'd be hypnotizing people just like everywhere. I'd be having laughs, and my mother-in-law, I embarrassed her a couple of times for sure because I was sitting in the restaurant there and I looked over at my mother-in-law and my wife, and I said, I'm done. You guys are still eating. I'm just going to go and hypnotize some people over that table over there. So my mother-in-law goes, oh, my goodness, you're not really going to do that, are you? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Because just by watching people, I can tell as to how quickly or how deep they're going to go into hypnosis. And just this one table that was a little ways away from us, it was like, I don't know what they were talking about, but it must have been pretty boring because they were almost falling asleep already. So anyway, I went over there and some people fell asleep, and then we had people in the restaurant that were all clapping their hands because, I turned them into a local celebrity.
I could see. Yeah, I could see why your mother-in-law might be a little bit upset about that, frankly.
Yes. Yes, that, and they were.
Okay.
They were full of compliments from my mother-in-law. They were all telling her how great her hair looked and lots of attention on her. And my mother-in-law does not like attention at all. Yeah.
So is there any place specific that you would like to perform that you haven't had a chance to?
Yes. I want to perform on a cruise ship. I've been offered a couple of times to perform on cruise ships, but I haven't been able to do that yet. The times that I've been offered have been over Christmas season, and over Christmas season I'll do between 40 and 50 corporate parties during the month of December. Mm-hmm. And so for me to go and do a contract on the cruise lines in the month of December is it's impossible just because of how many bookings I have on land. But that is something that I would really like to do one day. It's on my bucket list, is to do a contract or two on one of the cruise lines.
So I take it you're a good swimmer.
Good swimmer, that, and my wife and I love cruising, and it would be really neat to go on a cruise and get paid instead of us paying for it. Yes, that and just that and the cruise line is kind of, yeah, the cruise line is just it's just like that's, yeah, it would just be really, really great. Yeah.
So how long, of a stage show is your stage show usually?
Well, the shows, they range in time. Sometimes the shows, like if I'm showcasing, for instance, I'll maybe have a 10-minute time slot. But generally when I book for like corporate parties or for fairs and stuff like that, it's usually 45 minutes to about an hour and 15. And sometimes what I get booked to do is I'll get booked to do fundraisers. So one of the fundraisers that I'm doing this Friday is for Ukraine. And so on a show like that, what we're going to do is we're going to raise as much money as we possibly can. So we're going to do a 2-part show. So the first part is going to be probably about 45 minutes long. And then the second part, which is going to be about half an hour to 45 minutes long, the part in the middle, that's where we're going to raise lots of money. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some people to fall asleep, have some laughs, and then in the intermission, we're going to turn the gentlemen into professional hip models, and we're going to turn the ladies into professional palm readers. So whenever a certain song comes on, you're going to see all the gentlemen wiggling their hips. And if people want to have the gentlemen wiggling their hips close to them, all they got to do is wave and put some money into the red Solo cups that we give them, and all that money is going to go to Ukraine. And with the ladies, the more money they put into the cup, the better the palm reading they're going to have. So we're hopefully going to raise a whole bunch of money for Ukraine this Friday.
Yeah, you're talking to somebody who's half Ukrainian. It's a very touchy subject with me right now.
Yeah,
okay.
I will imagine. One of my best friends is over there right now. Terrence is his name, Terrence B. He's a hypnotist. And, he's been doing some phenomenal fundraising for them. We've been donating money to him, and he goes, and with the money that he gets, he's been buying pigs to butcher for food for the people in the community. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Corrie. Well, how do people reach you if they're interested in working with you?
Well, I'd love to hear from them. They can reach me on my website, corriej.com. That's corriej.com. Or hypnosis@corriej.com is my email address. My telephone number, 306-220-6588. I'd love to bring some Canadian laughs and have some fun with you. Have some fun, eh? There we go. I had to add that in. I didn't add any of those in already.
Okay, Corrie, thank you. I'll get this up, and hopefully you'll get some bookings from it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, and I can't wait to hear the finished verdict because it's going to sound so much better than me mumbling here. Thank you.
You're doing fine. Bye, Mr. Corrie.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.